their recruitment's going to have to change. They're going to have to go and get younger players who are nearly the finished article. You know, under Pep, they've signed a lot of finished article players, and that's because of Pep. That's why they go there. Erling Haaland would not have been going to Manchester City if Maresca had been the manager.
Do you not think so?
Erling Haaland would have been going to Real Madrid or somewhere like that. He 100% went there because of Pep Guardiola. And so they're not going to get, I don't believe they're going to get that type of player now.
Well, they've got the likes of Shirky. He's got the potential, surely, to be one of the best in the world. Semenyo coming in as well.
Again, but I'm talking about your finished articles, the guy in the market who everybody wants. City were getting them because of Pep. That is 100% going to change. So their recruitment's going to have to. They're going to have to taper the recruitment.
Nedum, what did you make of what Stevie had to say there? Do you think Manchester City are going to be struggling to attract some of the big name players now that Pep Guardiola's gone?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think the example of Erling Haaland is an interesting one because of the fact that he was, coveted by so many teams, and as his contract was running down at Dortmund, it's like, will he go here? Will he go there? Where's the right place going to be? But I think for a lot of City signings across most of Guardiola's time, it hasn't necessarily been that same way for some of those guys. Like, say, Bernardo Silva, he was doing well at Monaco and he came to City, but he wasn't necessarily a finished article. You look at, say, John Stones coming from Everton, he wasn't necessarily a finished article. And even Kevin De Bruyne, I think, coming from Wolfsburg, he wasn't a finished article. Many people thought, as he arrived at City, that he was obviously going to fail because it's too much money. And this is a guy that failed at Chelsea beforehand. So I think some of the squad makeup that, I've seen across those years have been players who came in as very good players and became great. The ones that stood the test of time, learned from the manager, learned from those around them, and almost elevate themselves. And I think for me, the biggest issue is, from Maresca coming in, can he elevate those players and take them to that next level? I think as a coach, he could be similar to many others, but there's something about Guardiola and the way that he sets up his sides and the way he teaches them about football that takes them and makes them play some of their best football that we've seen. I think people that I know, say like a Gael Clichy, Joe Hart, people like this who had him for just a short period of time, they talk about how he almost changed the way that they saw football. Because yes, we've all played the game, played it thousands of times, some people, but all of a sudden it looks a bit different, feels a bit different, so you find a different way to play. John Stones going into midfield was a point where a Kanji, somebody who was sort of criticised in some way early in his career, was then a stalwart for City in terms of how he was playing. And Nathan Ake, a brilliant servant for the club, but again, playing his best football there. So I don't know if they're really sort of recruiting finished article players. I don't think that's ever really been a thing beyond Haaland, beyond maybe Aguero in 2010 or 2011. So I'm with you with Haaland. I'm not with you overall, but I think the big difference that will be felt is a manager that's able to elevate players to a place that probably many people wouldn't think they would get to.
Ale?
Well, it's going to test one way or another whether the foundation of Manchester City left behind by Pep Guardiola can withstand the absence of Pep Guardiola. Is the foundation of Manchester City and the club that has been built around Pep Guardiola enough to carry this club forward, enough to carry this brand forward? Or is that foundation dependent upon the presence of Pep Guardiola? Now, there is no doubt in my mind that if you're a player at the very elite level and you walk into a room where there are negotiations going in terms of what club at the very highest level are looking for you, and one of the first things that you do is go, well, who's coaching this team? And when you see the name of Pep Guardiola, that, if you're sitting back, you go, oh. Wait a minute, let me straighten up. Huh? Because of what he means in the world game. It's a recognizable brand, it's a recognizable name, it's filled with success, and to Nedum's point, players seem to get better under Pep Guardiola. And so when elite players get to the negotiating table and they're going to want some clarity about what the direction is in the future for Manchester City, they're no longer going to have that clarity because Pep Guardiola is not there. So clearly it gives a chance to other clubs that may not have a manager of the stature of Pep Guardiola and may not have been in the conversation or in the negotiation. Now they're in it. And if they're in it, they have a chance to win it. And so, yes, I do think that it's going to put a premium on Manchester City selling the club as the main thing and as the reason as to why they're successful, the culture of the club, what the structure of who they are, and that's how the future is going to be, regardless of the absence of Pep Guardiola. But that's a hard sell when you have other teams that were not going to be in the conversation, and now they're very much part of it.
Well, in terms of Manchester City's recruiting now, we already do know one hot target, and that's Elliot Anderson. Stevie, what do you make of that one? Do you feel he is the finished article?
Yeah, I think right now there would be... I think every team in the Premier League would want Elliot Anderson. They know exactly what they're going to get. He's been one of the best midfielders in the league. So, yeah, if you're Manchester City, you absolutely want to get him. And in terms of the Pep leaving, you know, one of the other things that the best managers do, they hold everybody, regardless of who you are, whether you're Haaland or whether you're Foden or whether you're one of the young guys, they hold everybody to a standard every single minute that you're at that ground. That's the difference between good teams and great teams. And that's why you've got so many players at City who have been there for so long, the Stoneses and Bernardo Silvas, who have been at the top for so long, because they know that at no stage, whether it's Saturday game day or whether it's warming down on a Sunday, that they have to be at the best. That's the biggest difference. And that for me is the problem that Maresca is going to have more than anything. Because we know Maresca can coach. All the Chelsea players thought the world of him, but will he be able to keep accountability with all the best players every single time? Every time he walks through a door, every single time he steps on the training field, and everybody goes to attention, because that's what happens with Pep and Klopp and all the great managers. That's going to be the biggest problem. You know, signing players, yes, they're going to be in line for signing players. And Elliot Anderson would be a great start for Maresca. So...
Oh, we just had the voice of God.
Who's that? Where'd that come from?
Are you there, God? It's me, Alexis.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Elliot Anderson would be a great start, but this is going to be about Maresca.
Well,
Can I about Elliot Anderson for a second? I couldn't help, and I'm not thinking that this is the direction that this signing is going to go, and how the player may not live up to whatever the expectations may be. But when I thought of a player coming from a lesser team in a midfield position, going to Manchester City, I couldn't help but think about Calvin Phillips and how his career just went sideways, backwards, and down the toilet. It felt like he was going to have such an important role, and then it wasn't. And then when it wasn't, he was nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. And his career, again, went sideways, backwards, and gone. I imagine that Elliot Anderson will have a different outcome because it's a different profile of player.
yeah.
I'm just saying, let's not get crazy. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Calma.
Just, hey, it's a step forward for him. It would be a good signing for Manchester City. They need help in that area. He would address some of those issues. But let's wait and see as to whether he's able to make that transition.
Nedum, what do you make of what Ale said?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a good signing if he does manage to make his way to City. And I think the difference between himself and like a Calvin Phillips was like Calvin Phillips, like he's obviously a good player. He's done very well for England, like at the Euros in 21. But Elliot Anderson, he actually led the stats this season in the Premier League for most touches. He was number one in the whole division. So he's somebody that likes to get on the ball and to roam and to move around and to link the play, you know, between the back and the front. And considering that's for a side that's down near the bottom, you wouldn't really expect somebody to have those statistics. But also add to that, after having won, I think the 21s championships with it like last year maybe, you know, he then went straight into like a Thomas Tuchel side and looked excellent to the point where coming up in the weeks ahead, we're almost expecting him to start for England. So it almost feels like his play has been far beyond what we've seen from Forest. And the times when he's thrived has been when he's been playing in Europe, and it's a different sort of game. So I think in terms of him coming across the City, one thing to say about the recruitment, across all these years, like the managers obviously Guardiola's had some sort of say in terms of who they signed, but he's not individually picking people. I think overall they're scouting people based on how they want the team to play, and that goes beyond any manager himself. So I think Elliot Anderson coming in to be alongside some of those players, I think he's one of those who will just step up when the occasion needs it. So yeah, I think he'll come in. Calvin Phillips, I think, was more of like an expansive sort of passer. His long-range passing was probably his strength. Some of the tackling and stuff was his strength. But in terms of knitting the play together and receiving the ball under pressure, being able to be dynamic and move past people, I think at times for me, Elliot Anderson feels more like a Mateo Kovacic. And when you look at the career and stuff that he's had, I could see him falling in line at City and having someone, being someone with that sort of impact going forward. The
one thing I would say about Elliot Anderson that Calvin Phillips couldn't do, and actually Danny Drinkwater was the same at Chelsea when he won the league with Leicester. Elliot Anderson has stepped up a gear in the England side and actually looked at like one of the most important players for them. So he's kind of shown that it's not just because he's playing at Forest that he stands out. He stands out. He's standing out in this England team. And City better sign this guy before the World Cup because his price might go up.
His price might go up and probably will go up indeed. All right, well, we're going to have Nedum as well as Ale and Stevie back on Extra Time today answering your questions. We have the questions. Make sure to join us over after the show on YouTube.